touching people in the dark and claiming it's their loved ones.
The red flag started almost instantly.
I see a young man's body with an old man's Halloween head on top.
I saw your face in the seance.
The neckline of this thing looks like a mask.
You could actually see what looked like a person walking about.
A warm, naked body.
That someone in the seance would say something happened that didn't happen.
Sorry if he's terrifying looking, but that's why. He doesn't have very much clothing on.
To be a fraudulent physical medium, you have to live your life like a fraudulent person.
The feel is hard to describe, like a mixture of plastic.
Well, all I can say is that when I've seen the head come out, it was ectoplasm. It definitely was not a mask.
Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain!
This week, I opened my email to an email that is titled Photos of William.
Because at no point in the seance did the spirit world come forward and say, we're aware there is a camera present.
He is a fraud. It is just fact.
Head that isn't like flowy and vaporous. It's wrinkly and feels like plastic and looks kind of oily to that person's description. I just saw like plastic, like gross skin-colored plastic.
But there's no intelligence in that. There's no evidence in that.
Smeared this substance all over my face.
I tapped the chair and he is not in that chair.
I mean, I've had people tell me not to associate with him.
He was wearing my underwear.
And of course, when I saw the video, it made perfect sense, just as you've said.
And that his whole motivation was to try to teach people about physical mediumship.
Do you know why that is, or what led up to installing the camera?
Naked apart from some loincloth.
You ought to be ashamed of yourself!
In the way you're describing him, then I probably would never have him back.
And he just looked at me and he said, why?
The spirit just gave me the sensation of my dad.
In a seance at the Basel Psi Association in Switzerland, the photos can be viewed there on request.
I mean, he can't come back and work in Lilydale for a different reason. You have to have the right visa.
Caught on film in 2016. It's not personal. I don't care if he likes me or not. It's a Halloween mask of an old wrinkly man.
You're a very bad man! You're a very bad man! You're a very bad man!
If you're just finding this podcast now, please go back and listen to episodes 22, 23, 29, 30, 31, and 35. This is part 6 of the fraud follow-up. So the Basel Psi Association went ahead with the seances that they had scheduled with the fraud in August of 2024. And just before he left for his trip to Switzerland, he posted about me on Facebook for the first time. And I want to read this post to you to give you an example of the other side of the story, so to speak. It says this: since April, I have been subjected to online stalking and harassment by a Canadian woman who became upset with me after I allegedly did not offer her a hug when she was distressed. Since that incident, she has initiated a hate and smear campaign against me, spreading falsehoods, making threats towards me and locations I frequent, and encouraging others to fabricate stories. Despite her actions, I have refrained from responding publicly, as I believe she is not seeking resolution, but rather self-promotion for her declining mental mediumship practice. I respect my own methods of working, as do other physical mediums, and attendees of my events are aware of my practices at the time of booking. I have every right to practice my beliefs in a manner that suits me. This woman has no right to attack or demand that I conform to her expectations, and her campaign has now extended to slandering unrelated aspects of my life. Due to her harassment and the involvement of her associates, I am now involving police to address the stalking and harassment attacks on my beliefs. She has also insinuated threats of violence. If this woman contacts you, please do not engage with her, as it will only exacerbate the situation. I appreciate your support, but engaging with her will not change her mind or achieve anything other than increasing her publicity. She is likely to twist any response to fit her narrative. If you receive a message from her, please send me a copy so I can provide it to the police. I do not wish to debate this matter further. I will reiterate that I work in my own way, and for those who criticize physical mediumship by imposing specific standards, I suggest applying the same scrutiny to your own practices. According to your definitions, your actions might also be considered cold reading and fraud. Rather than bullying others online, why not demonstrate your claims? If this woman or her associates contact you, please ignore them or block them and send me a screenshot. On a brighter note, thank you all for your support. I look forward to being in Switzerland soon and the upcoming International Physical Mediumship Conference next April in Albany, New York. So, have you ever heard of DARVO? It stands for Deny, Attack, Reverse Victim, and Offender. And this statement here that he's made is the perfect example of DARVO, as pointed out by one of my friends. This is what he does. He claims to be a victim when anyone questions or provides evidence of his fraudulent behavior. And I want people to be aware when reaching out to someone who offers readings or services or healings to look for behavior like this, because it says it all. Everything that we need to know is in this statement. So I don't think there's much more I really need to say about it, because you all already know my story. I've been sharing it all along since April on this podcast. You know my motivations. You know my reasons for speaking up. You know my reasons for investigating his past, for connecting the dots, and essentially becoming an investigative journalist at this point, which is not actually what I planned for my life. But I've spent 5 months doing this because, I will say it again in this episode, there are vulnerable people being harmed by this man in the name of spirit, in the name of our loved ones on the other side. He is taking their money. He's touching them in the dark and pretending to be their deceased family members. Children, mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers. He's pretending to be them in the dark with a slimy substance smeared on his hands. I've been able to read some of the comments on his post about me, about how people are reacting to his DARVO statement. Some of the people used to be my friends, and I've met them in person, I've sat with them in seances. We've held hands. I've stayed at their house. We've ate lunch together. And now these people believe that I have some other motive, that I am upset that I didn't get a hug. And so some of the comments, like this one here, thank you for finally responding to this woman who I believe needs professional help. It is so very sad that people who claim to be spiritual choose to promote themselves by defaming another. If they were spiritual, they would be truly afraid of the karma they are bringing upon themselves. Fraud, I support and love you. Do whatever you have to. How about this one? I've read stories about people with this disorder. They become so fixed on a person and can become dangerous for the victim. Some have killed in pure rage and jealousy. She have a mental illness called obsessive love disorder or paranoid personal disorder. You better get police protection because she can harm you. The people who know your work will just think she has her own agenda and ignore her and steer well clear. There's this one. I'm aware of what's been happening, and I'm so sorry you've had to make this beautifully written post. But I'm glad you're addressing the matter. Stand true and firm in your convictions. You are only responsible for your own actions. Sending you love, healing, and hugs. You can reject the hug if you'd like. I won't be offended. That must be an inside joke because this woman hosts him. Here's one that I find interesting. It's from the man who hosts him at his house near Lilydale. It says, I am glad, Fraud, that I made the decision to host you at my home many years ago when I was warned of a condemning video, which was shortened and released without audio and without further explanation that you were securely tied to your chair before this segment was filmed. I told the detractor that I would decide for myself. Happily, this was the beginning of wonderful seances by you at my home for many years. I've been warned once again by this woman and her supporters, and once again choose to ignore their narrow, self-proclaimed definitions of what physical mediums should do and what physical seances should be like. I personally think they are full of should. So this is the man who refuses to look at the 2016 footage as evidence because of all of the stories, just like we heard in the episode with Sue, that were created to cover up what really happened there. I don't know what motivations Chris would have to make up stories and lies at this point. He was there, and yet this man who wasn't, who chooses to believe, who chooses to host and promote him, refuses to look. So the day after he put up his post about me, I was sent a screenshot of a post that he put up in early August in a Facebook group called Pub Management / Bar Staff Opportunities UK Only. And he's posted, looking for a fantastic general manager to run a new pub I am taking over, which is in the heart of Great Leys in Essex. The applicant must have extensive knowledge of running a busy pub, bistro, not only serving but dealing with events, and able to implement the ideas I want to bring into the pub. Cask ale experience vital as it is one of the top sellers. Live-in is available. The castle is based in Great Leys, Essex. This is a family pub with a lot of space indoor and outdoors. Currently mixed 50-50 split pub with a need for a menu revamp in line with pub revamp. Start date around 28th August. Don't miss this excellent opportunity to make your pub your own with the full support of the owner. Please send CVS to blah 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 at 123mail.org. Interviews to be arranged ASAP. Am I really talking about a pub again? Back in 2020, he was removed from management at the Bay Horse Pub, which has now since closed and reopened and bought and sold and reopened under another name. But City Council had to have an actual meeting to talk about the damage he had done to the community while managing that pub. And somehow, he's now managing another pub. But the most important thing to take from this is that pub management is his backup plan for when all else fails. So let's celebrate that we're getting somewhere, that we're close. I want to read to you the post that I put up a couple weeks after his trip to Switzerland. If you remember back in April when I went to the International Physical Mediumship Conference in Albany, New York, after a year in the physical mediumship community, I witnessed fraud in a seance, and I was physically, spiritually, mentally, and emotionally abused. I came home with the intent to clear up any harm that I had caused by previously sharing my experiences in seances and workshops about physical mediumship, having discovered it was all an act. I was heartbroken. My first podcast, episode 22, reached people all over the world, and many similar stories started coming out. Others that knew what I knew but had no proof. But we did have proof. Video footage of him from 2016, taking off his clothing, touching people and laughing in the dark. The question became, how could he still be taken seriously? How was he still doing this? With the support of many behind the scenes that encouraged and begged me to continue this investigation for the protection of the vulnerable, the grieving, the spirit world, and mediumship as a whole, I had to keep going. Despite the attacks from his supporters, I had to. It's just not right to remain quiet. In July, photos were sent to me of William, the ectoplasmic head that will eventually look like your deceased loved ones and even be able to talk to you. If you come to enough seances, spend enough money, maybe one day it will happen. Seriously. I saw from the beginning it was a mask and even found it online. I had no proof until an anonymous angel sent me the images taken in seance that match perfectly to the mask. It was my told you so moment. What a good feeling. But the folks in Basel decided to ignore this evidence and continue to book him for healings and seances, abusing many for profit. Follow the money, I guess. Then one day a message came in that said, Jenny, you're making too many waves here. Stop for a bit. We have plans in Switzerland. I went quiet and prayed to Spirit to make this happen. I was on the edge of my seat for weeks. When the news came in that they were successful with the new footage, I couldn't believe it. A dream come true. After 4 months of raising awareness, being called nasty things for speaking up, and gaslit by people who were too invested to take a step back and see it for themselves, we finally have more proof. My second told you so moment. The holy grail of evidence. I have a team of helpers now all over the world, and we will not stop until this is over. We will be releasing the footage in clips, and then a full-length video including audio, which we didn't have in 2016, for all to hear what Spirit had to say about the certain tricks he performs on trusting people. The tactic so far has been Darvo. Make me out to be the offender and gaslight all who question. But now we have the footage we need. I'm accepting apologies by email. All joking aside, this has been a tough 4 months, but the end is near. I've given so much of my precious time and energy to this case and can't thank you all enough for the support, love, and patience with me as I navigate something very little people have ever attempted to do. To call out someone in your own industry, especially an industry that has already had so much skepticism surrounding it, is rare. It trains you to be quiet because spiritual people don't act like this. I've been dismantling what it means to be spiritual and showing that we as psychic mediums have a duty to speak up. It is not acceptable to sit back and be comfy while knowing that someone is out there abusing people in all ways in the name of spirit and mediumship. No, we work too hard to bring evidence of survival and share our gifts with those who need help. View me as you will. This has to stop, and it will. I will continue to speak up. That's right, folks. Video footage. You see, this proves that when you speak your truth, regardless of what people will think, regardless of how much so-called evidence you have, when you know something to be true, when you've seen it with your own eyes, and you speak up to protect others, Spirit will protect you. Spirit comes to meet you in this place between the truth and the lies. So, you can go watch the videos. I've created a new website. I'll link it in the show notes. I suggest you hurry to go look before that website is potentially taken down by him and his supporters. But we'll also add the videos to the Physical Mediumship Transparency Initiative Telegram channel. I have copies of the video. We've released them, and along with commentary, we have the translations typed out because the seance was held in Bern, Switzerland, so a lot of the language is German. And yeah, it's really fucking awesome and satisfying that I was able to reach people in Switzerland who woke up, saw what I know, agreed, went back over their experiences, were comfortable being embarrassed that they've been fooled by this fraud, and came up with a plan to help. So go watch the videos, guys. Tell me what you think. And you can expect at least one more episode as a fraud follow-up because I'll be interviewing one of the people that was there in the seance in Bern, Switzerland on August 13th, 2024. He's going to tell us everything. How he came to be involved and what took place, so that there's no way they can say the audio was taken out, they edited this, they cut that out, like they did last time. So, what do you want me to ask him? Quick, send me your questions by email, info@jennyduranis.com, and stay tuned for the last, hopefully, episode of the Fraud Follow-Up coming soon. Okay, guys, thanks so much for following along. I know you've been enjoying it. Your messages of support are so welcome. I'm pretty exhausted. It's been 5 months of hard work, and yeah, I'm ready to be done with it. So now's your chance. If you have questions for him, what do you want to know? Now's your chance. Now is your chance to speak up and take part. And yeah, talk to you guys soon. Okay, bye.